Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you're watching for and whether you're watching this live. My name is Trevor Dornbos. I'm going to be taking you through mission control project management for about the next 45 to 60 minutes. I'm going to cover off a few aspects of mission control. Why mission control? Why would people use mission control? The evolution of mission control as a solution. What industries and what types of people use mission control, and then we'll get straight into that solution walkthrough. Happy for anyone to ask questions through the session if we need to deep dive, and can make time at the end of the session for any questions as well. So first of all, why mission control? Well, one of the key reasons people do go to mission control because it's native to Salesforce. And while you've got other project management solutions built on Salesforce or integrated with Salesforce, not many of them can claim they work out of the box. So mission control, when you install it, within the first 20 minutes, you've got access to the full application. We don't tier the licensing. You get access to 100% of the solution, and you determine how much you need to use. It's built on Salesforce. I'm actually setting it up is Salesforce configuration, which means if you've got a Salesforce admin or partner, or even the assistance of our company, Preca Business Solutions, then you can get up and running quite quickly. We've got a ton of online documentation and collateral, and I'll be sharing that at the end of the solution demo. Global customer user support, and that can certainly be local if you're in Australia, and also supported by a US team. So almost follow the sun, as it were. One of the key value points from mission control, we got that from an independent consulting company that interviewed, started with about 100 mission control customers, whittled down to about 50 as they had to go into their finance and P&L. And they worked with them to ascertain, well, what are the values they're getting from mission control? And that return on investment may seem completely high, but for a company spending maybe $5,000 a year on mission control, is able to get an increase in revenue and profit, I should say, of 300,000. You can sort of see where that comes into, and we'll give some examples of that at the end as well. So happy to share that. That's on our website as well. Evolution of mission control. It actually started live as an internal tool for our co-founders, Chris and Colin, now our CEO and CTO. And that's over 12 years ago. They were actually implementing Salesforce for customers. So they were a Salesforce systems integrator and needed a way to track the project. So that started internally as a solution, and they realized there wasn't a lot of competition in the market. So I figured we should release this on Salesforce App Exchange. So July this year, I think it will have been 12 years on Salesforce App Exchange. So launching in 2012. And over that time, it's just grown exponentially, both as a product, both as end users and customers. And we've got customers all over the world. So quite often I'll say mission control is not just a project management solution. It's a professional services automation solution, which means it does project management, but it also does resource management. It also does project billing. So you can actually take a project through the full life cycle, and I'll be showing you an example of that today, of going from an opportunity or any other Salesforce object, create a project, assign a resource, mark the work complete, generate a billing event and an invoice, and be ready to integrate into your finance system. Who uses mission control? Well, it's not just pure play professional services or consulting companies. We've got companies across all sorts of industries. Certainly some of the aspects of mission control that were developed a couple of years ago were for our construction clients who wanted a deeper way to actually manage budgets. Everything from insurance, we go actually to the logo slide. There's about just around 49, I think, by count, of some of the companies that are using mission control, and by no means all of them. So you may recognize some of those logos. If you're in Australia, there is at least 7 of those within there, the likes of Canon Australia, QIC, offshore brands over in New Zealand we'll talk about later, to name a few. And as I said, they're across a number of industries. And what's in mission control? Well, this is what I like to call our feature wall, and I won't be going into this granularly. But I mentioned before that we cover resource management. So all the aspects of resource management that you need to cover, not just to capture the billing so you can get the cost and the charge and that have live profit and loss in your projects, but also being able to assign skills so you can search for the relevant resource by the skills, but also have a skills development process inside mission control. So you can say, well, does that person actually is that person entitled to more skills? Are they actually developing towards something more senior? You can work through that. From a project management perspective, you can create a mission control project from a number of methods. I'll be showing you 2 or 3. I will be generating a project automatically for an opportunity. You can also use Salesforce products to actually feed your projects. There's an object called project requests. You might say when a certain condition is met in Salesforce, let's say a case or whatever, we want to create a project. You can clone projects, and within a project, you can clone milestones from other projects. So there's lots of great ways to actually get up and running quickly. And depending on how you like to manage your projects, maybe you've got different departments for those larger companies that manage projects. Some manage in an agile sprint fashion, some manage in a serial waterfall style. Mission control covers all those aspects and gives you a lot of visualization. So probably another game changer for a lot of our customers that came off other solutions was, oh, great, I can go into mission control and I don't have to choose what type of a project. I don't have to choose whether it's a Kanban or a Gantt chart or a task list type view. You can have all of those or some of those in a project you can choose. And if you need to get into deep project management, things like baseline tracking, dependencies, that's all in there as well, and we'll cover that, including, especially from an agile perspective and others, is project retrospectives. What did we do well? What can we improve on? And being able to report on that with lessons learned. We'll be covering a lot of these, including things such as the PMO dashboard. Time tracking, as you'd hope and expect, available right through the solution. And I don't know if this is unique, but I find it extremely powerful, is there's at least 7 or 8 different places you can log time in mission control, whether it's the standalone timesheet, which we're going to cover, or if you only work in the Kanban board or the action pad where you see your task lists, you can actually log time as you go there. You don't have to go out into another screen to actually do things like log time. Calendar converter as well. If you're integrated your Salesforce into Google or Outlook calendars, then you can also show those in your timesheet if you need to log times to non-project related work. So that all important non-billable time or excluded time. Project financials. So there's a number of ways we can track that, whether you're using purchase orders and you need to track the spend on purchase orders against expenses, generating invoices and credit notes, revenue recognition. If you're across different geographies, you're having that multi-currency support. All those aspects are actually in there for you. If you're more on the software development side, we've got full program management as well. This is how our development team actually does the sprint cycle for our 3 releases a year. I'll be showing you the latest release today. It came out a couple of weeks ago, and we won't be covering full program management today. From a collaboration perspective, because we're native on Salesforce, we leverage Chatter. We've also brought in a great solution, Meeting Manager. So if you need to track your meetings within the system without having to have those agendas and notes outside, also extremely powerful and very useful. And if I get a chance, if someone would like to see that, let me know. I'll cover that off. We'll also be covering off things like status reports and read-only page, getting that information out to your project stakeholders, whether they be the customer, other departments, or otherwise. And we'll be covering off those various collaboration tools or productivity tools. Okay, no questions coming up. Feel free to jump in as you need to. And now we're going to get into the meat of it. We'll get into the solution demonstration. I'm going to start off with a highlight view of some of the key aspects of where you can get to with mission control. I'll cover off the console. We'll go through some dashboards, reports for those interested in resource management, resource planner. Then we're going to go through a number of ways to actually create projects. So I'm going to create one from scratch and show you how we can clone a project. And then we're going to use the opportunity to project creation and The resource assignment wizard, which has been around for a long time, is great. I'll show that. But also two brand new features in the latest release, which is auto assignment and role forecast conversion, which a lot of our customers have been asking for. So we're really excited we could actually bring that to market. Once I've actually assigned a resource from one of the projects to, and we're going to choose Alana as a project team member, assuming she's got availability, I'll then log on as Alana and show her view to show that you can have different views of mission control and how she can actually do her work. And then once we've done that, we'll go back into that project. We'll show the milestone completion. We'll show the billing, how integration to work, some of the tabs within the project. And then we'll finish up the session looking at what an executive might want to look at, the PMO dashboard, the scheduler, and things such as Gantt Chart anywhere. And again, I'm happy to take questions as we go. So I'm in my Salesforce instance. I've had Mission Control installed. I've done a bit of configuration. I've added my data. As I mentioned, you can download Mission Control for Salesforce App Exchange, and it's ready to configure in 20 to 30 minutes. And that includes the 15-minute wait for App Exchange to load into your org. If you're familiar with Salesforce, at the top left, you'll see the app launcher and the various apps, whether you're using Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Marketing Cloud, or others. Community, you may know as Experience Cloud or Experiences. And I'm in the Mission Control app, so we're going to look at it from that perspective. You may start your journey in Mission Control in the console. Now, as I'm a full admin, I've got access to everything in the console. The Launchpad is where you're creating things. So we'll create a new project in a while. You can clone an existing project. And a role in Mission Control, a role's someone or something you're assigning work to, whether that's a user that logs in, whether it's someone, let's say a customer that you want to make sure gets assigned work, but they won't log in. It could also be an asset or like a piece of equipment or something like that. So if someone always needs to take a piece of equipment to them on site, you can make sure that that's got availability as well. You can group your roles into teams, and that's really powerful. We find our customers really like the fact they can put someone in multiple teams. So they could be, for example, in their what we call a master team of consulting, but they might also be in the Asia Pacific team or the California team or the Sydney team where I am. So I could be in the Sydney team, I could be in the sales team, all internal employees. It's a really great way of categorizing the roles. So when you're looking for someone to say, hey, I need someone from this location with this skill, then it gives you that real capability at your fingertips, not having to go into multiple systems. While we're on skills, we'll see that when we do our searches, you can build out skills, have a skills matrix. It's also a full skills development plan. And other aspects is holidays. So we do full holiday allowance tracking. Or if you're using an HRMS, you want to bring all your holidays that people have approved into the system. That's a great way to see people's real availability. I'm not going to go through all of these. I'm sure there's a few questions on some things here. The progress pad, cover off quickly. We're going to see that when we log on as the consultant. This is where you essentially progress any work on projects. So we'll be looking at the Kanban board, whiteboard, some of these other boards. And maybe only your managers can, and project managers and other people can actually do things like deep dive into certain things, like get a 360-degree view. Other three tabs, they're more from a project management perspective. So if you're a company that does do agile and captures requirements and builds out user stories and assigns them to sprints, then that's a really good aspect. And please follow up with us and we can send you some great recordings from the webinar I ran in December. Gantt chart, you'll see the Gantt chart under the project, and we also have the concept of Gantt chart anywhere, and I'll be showing that at the end as well. Okay, and finally, if you're the admin, you're going to be installing, testing, trialing Mission Control, the control pads where you actually set a lot of the central controls for Mission Control. Things such as the project status report when you want that to be generated. What are the new features from our latest release? At the project level, you can determine what days do you want the project status report to go out on. So where might you get to once you've got Mission Control installed? Well, your executives, love this. And this is, I know this from talking to executives. Sometimes they just want to know at a top level, what's our P&L at the company level? And we can see based on everything that's actually our 3 core accounts I'm reporting on in my org, this is where we are. A P&L, we're making 149K of profit in the period we're reporting on. Now, this report that I'm looking at inside the dashboard, this is a Salesforce dashboard and report with mission control metrics. So if you've got Salesforce, you'll understand how this works and that, oh, great, I don't have to go into a different reporting tool. I can bring my mission control metrics into one dashboard along with perhaps my sales or my support metrics. And any data you capture in mission controls, any metric you can report on. So I'm looking at my, my margin, my P&L on a number of selected projects here. If we're doing, milestone revenue generation, like milestone billing, we can say, well, when is that revenue likely to hit? When are those milestones set to close? And we'll be come back to this in our deep dive. Things such as cost performance index and schedule performance index, really powerful metrics in that the cost performance will tell you, are we on track for profit? Are we actually losing money or making money this week? So on a real-time basis, as people submit their timesheets and all the approvals, you'll perhaps once a week run the process to update the cost performance and the schedule performance. And you can see that before you get to end of month. So the game changer that's had for a lot of our customers is not having to wait until finance tell them, have we made or lost money? You can see that on a weekly basis. You can see when a project's starting to go off track. So extremely powerful. So you can see the others, revenue, roles, what roles have we got, what teams have we got within, number of roles. So there's no real limit to what you can report on. Other aspects you can get to if you're looking at the resource management side of things is the resource planner. Extremely powerful in that you can forecast what my resource capacity is going to look like. Now, I've done one thing here. We've got a couple of aspects we look at. An action and mission control is where we're assigning the work to in a project, what people might refer to as a task. We call that an action. And then forecast, we have a thing called role forecast, a feature called role forecast, where within Salesforce opportunity or even within the project, there's some work that's coming up, but we haven't created the project. We haven't got the approval, but we're pretty sure it's going to actually hit. So I can see here, if I swap just to the work we've already won and we're working on, you'll see, okay, I've got a lot of white space. I've only got one resource that's coming close to capacity. Everyone else in my red, amber, green settings can be set however I like them. I see, I'm really not looking fantastic. But if I add my forecasts, that tells me a slightly different story. It's like, okay, as long as we close those deals, we're actually looking a bit better, a bit over-resourced there for Alana. And then I can go from the overview. So we can see here, okay, it's dropping down in end of February. I'm going to go to the planner, which I can say, for example, give me weekly, daily, monthly view. And again, I'm doing it by forecast and actions. And I can see on a week by week basis here, okay, what are people working on? I can also see the granularity. I can see the hours of billable. There's some non-billable time over here for Alana. I can see she's got some holiday in the system. I can see in purple here, we've got the projects. And here I can see we've got an opportunity at 90%. So it's a Salesforce opportunity at 90%. And that's likely to close. And we're going to be starting work in a couple of weeks. So when that happens, okay, Alana's already busy. So we either need to find another resource to deliver that, or we can start reassigning some of the other work we can see Alana's on. And we'll come to that, how you do that later, right at the end of the session in the scheduler. Now, anywhere you see these little underlines, you can actually draw through. I can go into the actual project. I can go into the opportunity. I can go look at the Alana's role record if I want more detail on her weekly hours. Does she work a 4-day week, a 5-day week? All those sorts of things. So extremely powerful. If we need to, we can come back to the resource planner. So just super quick recap. I've covered off the console, dashboards, reports, a resource planner. Let's go and show you how we could create some projects. So I'm coming back into the console. And you can create a project from a number of places. So if you're familiar with Salesforce, you can use our collection of wizards from Mission Control. You won't find Harry Potter and Gandalf in here, unfortunately. They're all very technical wizards. And I can go create a new project. Now, I've got a number of tabs open here. I can go into projects, create a new project from here. So I'm not so limited to having to come into the console. There's a lot of flexibility in the system. As I create a project, using this wizard, I need a name. So I'm just going to call this webinar test. Don't know what the budget is, don't have an opportunity. But at a minimum, when I use the wizard, I need to put it in a milestone. It's like, oh, look, I'm going to call this milestone, doesn't really matter. Just call it start. And I'm going to launch the project. You might just have a one milestone project where, look, I don't care about having multiple actions and milestones. Maybe I just want to add, some, actually, let's call that resource tracking. There we go, making things up on the fly. It's doing so well with my typing. And that's all I really need to do to start creating a project. Now, my setting in Mission Control, I've got an admin setting. I've got absolutely everything switched on. So everything you see is configurable to quite a high degree. At the top, I've got these bar, and I've added some fields I want to show in here. And that can be whatever fields you want to bring in. I've got a toolbar where I've got a number of things I can do. I can, as an admin, I can configure that in the page layout. If you're familiar with Salesforce, I've got the milestone tracking, the project tracking ribbon, which will show my milestones. And by default, I've said when I land into a project, I want to come into the work breakdown structure. At the moment, all I've got here is a milestone. You'll see there's a whole lot of other tabs here. And depending on your role and your view, you can determine what tabs can people see, including with the permission sets we provide, Salesforce permission sets. Maybe some people can see the screen, but never see anything that's got a dollar figure on it. So it's very, very configurable. Now from here, I could start creating actions against these milestones. There's a couple of options up here: create more milestones, create actions. I might go, look, I'm just going to go create actions. And the create actions panel, not the only way you can create an action. I kind of like it because it gives me the ability to do things quickly. Go, okay, I'm going to resource tracking is the milestone I want to use. I'm actually going to have 3 in my case. And I go design, build, deliver. Nice sort of simple process. If I want to, I can start plugging in some details here. And these fields are moderately configurable on what you can have. There's a lot available. I've got everything switched on. For example, you might say, look, I know for design, we're going to allocate 16 hours to that. The build, we're probably going to put 32, and then deliver, we've got 24. Now, one of the great concepts in Mission Control, actually, I'll hold that thought. I might say, I want this to start on the 5th of Feb. I think that's going to go over, it's going to go over 2 days. And then I'd say, look, we'll then go the following week. We'll put the 29th of Jan, and that's going to go over 4 days. Sorry. Got my dates completely wrong. 12th to the 15th, and then from the 15th of Feb, we might just say from the 19th. So that's great. And 24, I'm just going to look, have 3 days for that. Fantastic. Now I can do this manually in the Gantt chart. I might say, oh, do I have any dependencies? Yeah, look, I want to follow to start on 1. 1, follow to start. There we go. And 2, follow to start. So I've got dependencies. I've got a lot of other things I can do here. I'm just going to go design build. And I'm just going to put them all the same. I could have just created the one. It probably would have been the simplest thing to do to show the simplicity. What I wanted to do here is very quickly put that in, because what it's done is created my actions. I haven't got an action owner. One thing I did mean to do very quickly. I'm going to come back to this, and I'm going to put some placeholder roles in here. So look, maybe I need a designer. Maybe I need a consultant. Maybe I need a consultant. And there we go. So I've actually got the bones for my project created pretty quickly. If I flick across to the Gantt chart, that's already been created for me. I haven't had to do anything. So if you like, automatically, it's actually got my dates, it's got the details, and I can see everything here. If I actually want to expand that out, actually, yeah, what I'd like to do is we're actually going to have that change a bit, make that a bit more flexible. You'll see in gray, I've got non-working days. That's a Salesforce setting, so we don't work weekends here. And hit save. So very, very configurable. Do that on the fly. If you've got any questions, a lot more detail, we can cover that off. And because we've got the placeholders and I've got hours plugged in, this will actually start to calculate my costs and my profit rates if I've set that at the project level. We'll come to that later. So that was creating a project. Oh, and once I've finished with this project exactly if I want, maybe I come to this and say, I'd like to clone this. I'd like to clone this project. I can do that from any project if my admin's got that setting that lets me do it. And I could say webinar test 2. Maybe I want to change the currency or anything. I can select the project settings, which we haven't really changed. And I can determine, which milestones and actions do I want to incorporate. And then I could just clone that project. So copying an existing project, super quick. So certainly if you've got one you've done before, you can do that. Now you can also set a project as a template, and that's going to take us through to our next step. So we've created a project manually by clone. Let's look at using templates to create a project from an opportunity. So first of all, and this is the project we're going to carry through to the end of the session. So I'm going to create a project. I'm going to assign a resource. We're then going to log in a while as Alana, hopefully if she's available, and do some work on that. So by installing Mission Control, I've added these 4 fields to my opportunity page layout. There's a number of ways we can actually create projects, but I'm using a template project. It's a fixed price implementation. I've set the project start date as today, close date is today, very ambitious. And all I need to do is actually edit and mark this box as true. Tick this box, and that will actually create the project. It'll align the start date from the template to this date. It'll take the budget from the opportunity and it'll create the project. Now, I've got one piece of automation. I've added a Salesforce flow that when I click close one, this box will get ticked for me automatically. And that's really just to emphasize that if you need automation, you want to reduce clicks, Salesforce flow is a great way to do that. Okay, so if I just hit refresh, it's run in the background, and that project should have been created for me. Fantastic. So there we go. It's got the budget. It's actually tied to my account record, which I've specified in the opportunity. It's tied to the opportunity, my start date, my budget. I don't have to leave the system. I'm actually in Salesforce still in my mission control view. So extremely powerful. Haven't had to swap tools, lose time and lose information. Those fields at the top have been populated with the information. So I can see my start date, I can see all the milestones, and I can see I've got a number of milestones here for my project. And I can see I've got a requirements meeting. Under my requirements meeting, I've also got a couple of checklist items. So the structure of mission control is actually quite deep. So you can go from a program to a project, to a phase, to a milestone, to an action, to a checklist item. In my case, I'm just using milestones, actions, and checklist items. For my requirements meeting, I've got a placeholder, so I need to get someone on that pretty quick. I've got my alerts telling me that it's already today. These ones are all also at risk. And quick way to get that resource is, well, let's do it using the resource assignment wizard. So I'm going to click over here. Here's one of those things one of those places I can log time that I mentioned. So if you're working within the project, you can log time as you go. Resource assignment wizard, let's pop that up. And what this does, it gives you the ability to search by a number of things. So within the action itself, we've specified we need someone with a skill of configuration. So we're leveraging that skill within mission control. I know I want someone to be in region, so I'm actually going to choose APAC staff. And I want to start today, but if I can't start today, let's have a look for the next 2 weeks on a daily view, who's available. And I've got a cogwheel, I can determine, what comes back. So when I hit search, it's only going to bring back the people that meet the criteria I specified. That's like, okay, I've got Mick Fanning's really available. Alana's available for today. And you know what? I'm going to use Alana because she's a less expensive resource because I've seen Mick's a senior. And just double check what Alana's working on. Well, she actually came back from 3 days off. So yeah, we need to get her back into things. And we can also see on Friday she's got a day off. So it'd be good to get some billable time into her week. So let's send that to Alana. I could have just, if I knew the person, done a search and put that in there. But let's use the capability we've got. Now, if you want to have multiple people, you can add contributors. You can split that work between them. We're just going to give that to Alana. And then you'll see Alana's there now, the action owner. Now, she can get an email notification, a daily digest, and we're going to log in a short while to actually see how that goes for her. Now, while I'm creating assignments for people, a couple of brand new features. So if you're familiar with Mission Control, you have been looking at it, you might find this extremely exciting. I know I do. We've had a lot of customers asking for this. And this is the concept of the auto assignment. So the project I just showed, I did a resource assignment for one action. But what if I want to resource the whole project? So let's generate this project. We're going to have a start date of 5th of February. If you're in the US, that's a day, month, year format. Using the same template we used before and creating project for auto assignment testing. There we go. There's our auto assignment project. Now I could do the same thing for this project. I can go in action by action using the resource assignment wizard, but with the new auto assignment, gives you a heck of a lot of power. So I could just let it auto assign. I'd like it to recommend, so I can actually choose between what's found. And we can search either by the master team, so are they in the APAC team, the California team? Maybe in my example, I'm going to look by skill. So when I click assign, I've got a lot of criteria in the background on what do I look for. It's going to scan all my resources, see if that criteria is met. I've got weighting factors within that. And then it's going to bring back a panel of people I can select for. So these are the skills that the project requires. And these are the people that have actually met the criteria the best. I'm going, okay, Mick and Bethany, you know what? Same challenge as before. Mick's a bit more expensive. Bethany needs the more experience. I'm going to give that to Bethany. Project management. Look, Kelly, look, great project manager. Training. Tyler's a contractor. So I can see that from not having an image in here. That's the way we look at it in our system. I can say, who's the next best fit? You know what? I'm going to also do that to Bethany because if she's doing the configuration, then it'd be great to have her doing the training. And then for the UA design, let's use Lane. She hasn't quite hung up her surfboard yet. And I can just assign that. Super powerful, super quick. It's showing me the assignments. I can see, it's all billable hours for this project. I can see what they're working on. And when I close the screen and hit refresh on my tab, I can see all my people in here. So I can see all those assignments have been done. And I can always come back to things such as, resource allocations to sort of see, okay, how many hours we allocated, what's actually done. So extremely powerful. If you were waiting for that, you're going to be very happy. If you're familiar with role forecasting mission control, so role forecasting's been around for a wee while now. And we have the concept in mission control of role forecasts, hence the name role forecasting. At the opportunity or even at the project level, we can actually have a forecast of what we want for the project. So really powerful, as you saw on the resource planner, for saying, look, what's actually in forecast coming up and when can we actually get people working on it. So I can see I've got Mick Fanning, Kelly Slater, and Bethany Hamilton here. I've selected Mick by 20% of his time, Kelly by hours, Bethany by 50% of her time. And I can see there's the forecast for the billable, there's no non-billable, and there's a lot of granularity. And you can see at the forecast level, this potentially is going to help me with my quoting as well. If you got this at the opportunity stage, wouldn't that be extremely powerful, having that all in one place? So that's great. How can I use that to actually create a project mission control? And I sound excited because I really am, because this has been something that we've been trying to achieve for quite a while. So I've got a blank template here, a blank project. Let me just quickly open this up. So I've only just created that this morning. And I've got no work breakdown structure, because what I'm going to do when I create the project is I'm going to use those role forecasts to create the milestone and the actions. So even less work for you to do. So when we say generate project, what I'm going to do, give that a few seconds to run. Okay, so I've got my role forecast in the opportunity. When I've created the project, that role forecast information carries through to the project. Now I could still do my project the normal way and build out the milestones. I'll just double check. I've got my managed forecast, which has come from the opportunity. Great. Yep, there it is, Mick, Kelly, and Bethany. Great news. Now, brand new feature. And I've just added a checklist. We don't want to put it in the toolbar because you really can only do this once. Otherwise, you need to delete the raw forecast allocation. So I want to convert those forecasts to project actions. And that's extremely powerful. If all you care about is, I've got these people resource, I just want them to be able to log time. So I want that to be super easy, super quick. And if I click overview, it's created a milestone for me. I just put a setting and say I want the milestone to be called role forecast. You can change that. And I've already got all that detail in for Bethany, Kelly, and Mick. They can start login time as soon as they get onto that and start working with that. So extremely powerful. So a few ways to create projects and mission control. It's not the limit. There's a lot more, but it's extremely flexible. That's the key message in there. So let's go back to that project we created earlier. So I created a project. I assigned an action to Alana. So let's go have a look at Alana's view of the world. I just realized I haven't got my action notifications open, but we can actually talk to that. So you can, let me just pause my share for a second. I'll just quickly open the tab. I'm just going to show you the demo, the daily digest. Okay, so resume share. This is an old example, but with the daily digest, you can have this come through daily as the name dictates, or maybe do that on a weekly basis. Really powerful because you don't have to log in to see what you're working on. You can actually see, what have I got on for today? What's been added that I need to work on? Have I got anything that is pending or overdue? If I'm an approver for expenses or time logs, do I have those? Do I have any approvals for holidays? So getting all that information as you sort of open one eye and look at your mobile phone before you even go into work or think about work. Okay, so we've assigned a project to Alana. I'm just going in as an admin. I'm going to log in as Alana, and then we'll change to her view of how she may look at mission control. So because I'm an admin, I can see the full view. And when Alana logs in, she'll probably see the team member view. Okay, so I've got a number of tabs here that Alana looks at, but if you noticed, I've got the corresponding wizards that match those. So for example, she might go, look, I really just want to see an action pad view of what I've got on my plate. And the action pad's got that great view of being able to list what you've got coming up. I can see, okay, there's some things that haven't actually run yet. Things that actually work. You might say, look, she can just tick that mark off. There's the ACE implementations project that we just assigned her to, the requirements meeting. She can see she's got 8 hours, none logged, 8 remaining. There's that alert saying she should work on it. And as I mentioned before, she can go and log time. She could actually pop in here and start logging time, adding comments. and configurable pop-up modal, depending on what fields you want Alana to see, even adding validation rules to say you can't save a time log unless you do certain things like add notes or select certain options. We'll come back to that. Now, in this action, we can also see at the right, this is the checklist item manager. So we pop that open. I can see there's those two checklists that we had to get done for the action. So large says yes, like I did the validation with the client, I documented it, and they signed it off. So job well done and all good. So that's actually going to have changed that from plan to in progress because she started working on it. And maybe Lana's a bit more visual and we can go into the Kanban view. But what I really love about the action pad is it gives you a full view of what you've got. Look, there's a couple of overdue items that we saw below. What's there? There's the checklist items. It's quite configurable. Plus, you can filter it. You might say just filter it to certain projects, just filter it to certain days, maybe anything starting or ending this week. And you can swap between those filters as well. Maybe Alana would prefer to see a Kanban view of her work. And when she goes into the Kanban, okay, we can see there's that requirements meeting she was working on. See the project milestone action and number, and whatever fields you want to configure. I've just got start and end date, checklist items, hours scheduled, percent complete, hours scheduled, remaining checklist items, plus things like chatter. So if you need someone to chatter on the project, and perhaps the action milestone or project level, and just she could actually send this back. Trevor, client, agreed to plan and signed off. So a great way to actually collaborate, see what's happening in the project without having to get on the phone, send emails somewhere where people can't actually see. And then you might say, look, she's actually going to log time here and say, okay, any notes you wanted to add, or notes as I call them. Pick list field, this is configurable by you, obviously, or obviously if you're familiar with Salesforce. And we'll just, she might say it was design and she did 8 hours. There's also ways to add validation rules. If you need to limit how much time where they can see or log overtime, there's a lot of that. Now, I could just mark this as complete or just log the time because I'm still coming back to it, things I want to do. Maybe I did that before I sent the chatter notification. Okay, and that's updated now. So my 2 checklist items are done. My hours are logged. I can see the progress bar is complete. I don't need to go back to the checklist item manager, which we showed you. I don't need to raise an issue. If I want to go and see the full action detail, I can. And I'm just going to drag that as Alana across to complete. So job done. Fantastic. And she doesn't need to sort of do any more on that. She can also change the view of the Kanban. So you might be looking at things by priority. Maybe things need to be prioritized. You can sort of, drag that through, and lots of other ways of actually looking at things. Other thing Alana might care about is if you've got people that prefer a standalone timesheet. So here's Alana's timesheet where she can see what she's working on, and okay, she hasn't logged time for this project that she was assigned, and I can see that she's got time off here. And then if she needs to, she's actually got, that we can see at the left, annual leave. And there's a lot of features within that timesheet too. And you can determine what people can see, what they can do. There's even a timer if you want to get very granular with time. Other things here, if you're an approver, you'll see approvals. I can show that if people are interested. Calendar converter, if you're integrating into your calendar, you can see that's what we worked on today. So if you've got Google or Outlook Calendar, you'll see all your events from Salesforce come across under here, and then you could log those as non-billable time. Other areas, dashboards that you want Alana to see, you can do that. But I think, for the sake of time, that's probably all we're going to show for Alana. So we're going to go to the action pad, the whiteboard, the timesheet. I think we covered that all. But you can choose what Alana can see, what she can do as a consultant. So very, very configurable. I'm going to log out as Alana. And then while that's happening, I'm going to come back into that project. We're going to see a bit of automation that's happened around milestone completion and billing, and then talk briefly about integration. So if we go back to our implementation project, and I'm just going to hit refresh on the overview on the work breakdown structure, I can see there's Alana, that action's complete. She scheduled 8 hours, so her forecast hours and her actuals. And they've also rolled up automatically into the milestones. So a very good way to track forecast or scheduled hours against actuals, completion percent. And I've also got a setting within this milestone to make that a bit easier to view. I've also got a setting in my project that says when all the actions complete, I want to auto complete the milestone. Now, this is a fixed fee milestone billing project, and you can have time and materials, fixed fee, retainer, different by milestone, manual. It's very, very configurable. My example is using fixed fee. And because that's completed, it's created a mission control billing event. And this is where that handoff can happen to your finance system. So I can see that the billing event's being created. I've got it in draft status. This is based on the completion of our requirements milestone. I can see there's the milestone billing amount. It's got tax. We've applied GST, Australian GST, 10%. Now, going deep into the weeds, or maybe even below the weeds. I've got all the detail. We mentioned it was in draft status. I've got other information that we can add, go through. I can see the tax implications. It'll also create an invoice template that runs about every 5 minutes. And you could actually generate the invoice from Mission Control. So you could actually send that to the client. Why is that useful? Because if the client calls you as the project manager, perhaps, you can go and have a look at the invoice that was sent. So if they have any questions, I would have found that extremely powerful as an engagement manager. While we're deep under the covers, under the billing event, we have a billing event item, and this is where that integration can be set up to go into your finance system. We've got a couple of webinars where we've used a couple of different apps on integration into Xero, for example. Some, one of the most common with small to medium business, and even select the right ledger code. So that payment can be automated to go through to Xero. And when the payment comes back to Xero, have it come back to the billing payment. Now let's just do that manually today. Let's say requirements paid it the same day as it was sent, which is what all customers like to do. And whatever reference was on the invoice. Now I've included the GST in here, and I'm going to hit save. Now, why did I go to that level of detail? This could all be happening automatically, and you don't even see this in the background. And what the project manager sees is, let's have a look at the billing. They can see that 3,000 was invoiced and 3,000 was paid. We know it was 3,300, but we don't count GST tax as towards the project, but we're certainly capturing that. So if you want to report on your GST, that's another great thing. So really centralizes that process. We had an event late last year, an executive event. One of our customers was asked, how much of the process do you automate? I said, no, as soon as time's logged and a billing event's created, we just push it straight through to Xero. And it's a lot easier to create credits in Xero than have to double check everything, as long as you're approving the time correctly as it comes through. So where are we up to? I know we're sort of running, well, no, not finished yet. So billing integration, I did cover the Gantt chart. We can look at that a bit more depth. Status report, read-only page, and retrospective. So if there's any question on billing, please let me know. So the Gantt chart, this project's got, I showed the Gantt chart on the simple project before. I was just trying to recall that. So this project has a number of levels. So I can see all the milestones that we saw there. We can see dependencies between them. A number of ways to view that. You can add other fields in here. So if you want to track your baseline variance, there are other fields you can look at. If I actually switch on baseline variance, the orange here from a visual perspective shows my baseline. Now, if I actually move things on my project, now I've done that manually and it's affected all the rest. So what I might do is I'm going to switch on auto schedule, and I'm just going to go 211, follow to start, +2. And then with the automated thing, that's just dependencies. It's auto aligned everything And then when I go and schedule that, I'll have a better visibility of what's happening. If you're in Australia, you might notice 26th of January is a public holiday. We won't name it because I know there's some contention, but it gives you a visual tracking of your baselines. You can report on those baseline variances as well. That's deep within the project. So I just thought I'd cover that off. Now, status report, customer read-only page, and retrospectives. Let's go into one I created earlier. So probably one of the great things about any cooking show, solution demonstration or webinar, is having something pre-baked. Now, this example of my work breakdown structure, I'm showing where I've got phases and milestones and actions and checklist items. So just showing there's a different level. When I actually go to the Gantt chart for this project, slightly different view because I've added a bit more granularity to it. And that there's my phases, my milestones. If you have a large project that you need to group, that's a really powerful way of doing that. If I need to actually share that, I can PDF that. I can do a snapshot, CSV, however you want. And there's a brand new feature. You can use JSON to actually import and export projects, mostly for between your sandbox and your production org when you're doing that data transfer, as it were. Retrospectives, which I certainly noted I was going to cover off. So perhaps at the end of each milestone or sprint, if you're doing sprint planning, is we're going to do retrospectives. So, you can report on that, tag it to various areas, and be able to report on, what do we need to focus on? What can we improve more? Get key delivery team perspective. We didn't get that before the project. Extremely powerful. Now, one thing I haven't shown yet, which I think is the most powerful, is insights. Now, from our, I think it was our September release, we've really ramped our game up here in that we've included any number of charts from within the project, configurable. So you might not want to see all the charts, but I can see there's the billable value where we're up to in our project. So on a weekly basis, you can actually see where you're up to on the billable value. How many hours have you burned? Any purchase orders you're tracking, any expenses, what's our profit and loss, what's our margin, what's our invoice status. And I mentioned earlier, cost performance index and schedule performance index. So these are an indication that we're losing margin and we're behind on schedule. So being able to report on that in the dashboard and drill down to this project, extremely powerful. Now, my burn down of time logs, not great because it's a demo org, but you can actually then track against your burn down for your project, any risks and issues. If you're doing risk management or issue management within your projects, you can certainly track and assign those to people within your organization, report on it, get that information out. And then making sure I'm covering it all, getting out to customers, stakeholders as a status report. So maybe you're just going to share the top level, show where the project's up to, a bit of a note from the project manager, show what's included in there. How's our baseline start day was actually, a year and a half ago, but our real dates are here. So this project's started quite late. I've determined to show the full project detail, but you can say maybe I want to show the milestones so that the stakeholders can see the key dates and they know when things are actually going to happen and who in the organization or on the team is responsible. I've included a snapshot of the Gantt chart, any risks, issues, change requests, and other things you want to incorporate. There's also a customer read-only page. We share as a force.com page, which you can share a lot of the same information. So I can see here, I've got, here's the structure of the project. Again, you can just share at high level. Maybe you want to only show milestones, or you can get to any level of granularity. Now, what I especially hear from customers that love about the feedback about the customer read-only page is the fact that the Gantt chart is very similar to what the people internally say. That will take about 10 or 15 seconds to load. And you see, I can see what's happening in the project. I can get that real view. I can't change anything, but I can certainly see where we're up to. It's like, it looks like we're running behind because we're supposed to build the page content and people haven't completed or logged time. That could be because maybe they're not doing it till Friday. And also things such as, time, the Kanban view. Sorry, that's going to refresh. That'll take a minute. Realize we're running short on time. Time logs, risks, issues, all those things we saw on the status report. We're in the home stretch. So from an executive view, we covered dashboards, I covered the resource planner, things such as the PMO dashboard. And it depends if you've chosen your projects to be on here. I've probably only got a couple of projects. So here we go. There's a roadshow implementation project and enterprise build, 2 projects on tracking. And overall, we're not looking good. We're losing margin. I've got red, amber, green settings. We start at 1. And if we fall below 1, it means we're losing margin. We're behind on schedule. If we're above 1, we're ahead of margin. We're ahead of schedule. What's great about this is we can go right down to the milestone and the action view to see, okay, where are we actually losing traction? So it looks like the requirements, yeah, we fell behind. We probably spent more hours than we should. The schedule was okay at that stage. And yeah, we can get quite granular. And you can even compare that to say, okay, how was that compared to 2 weeks ago? And wow, 2 weeks ago, we were doing really well. So something's really happened in the last 2 weeks. So maybe go for last week. Maybe something's happened in the last week. Right. Okay. So it's really recent. So I'm glad I picked up on that. Extremely powerful. Last couple of things to cover off. Resource scheduler. I realize I'm about to go over time. And being able to reassign that work. So we can see what Lana's working on. There's that requirements meeting. We can see she had time off. We can see there's a holiday in Australia. And where we've got people working on multiple things and they're busy, you might say, maybe I need to reassign across people. If I need to redistribute work, it's as easy as dragging it between people. There's filters and all sorts of settings you can use. Maybe you just want to look at specific projects. Maybe you want to look at specific skills and you group it. I've just chosen to do by roles, and there's multiple filters you can use and share with as you want to. And then lastly, before we tidy up on the presentation, Gantt chart anywhere. So being able to look at multiple projects, again, as many as you want, whatever way you want to filter on them. I've just said I've got a filter for my specific projects, even down to being able to show cross the project dependencies. So being able to see, how are these projects relating to each other? Okay. That's it from a demo perspective. I hope you found that extremely useful. You'll be getting a copy of the recording as well as a deck. So if you are watching the recording, then that's great. From G2, we've got some amazing results there. Feel free to have a look at that and review on G2. How do we support you? So we don't just sign you up and forget you. We go through customer onboarding. As part of evaluating mission control, you can also take on a free trial. We'll get an understanding of requirements, do a solution demonstration to suit what you need to see. And then if and when you become a customer, there's a lot of collateral you can work through, from our learning portal to a lot of documentation on our resource page. So things such as ebooks, webinars, training videos, you name it. There's a lot of great facilities there. A couple of case studies to leave you with. Brands in New Zealand, one of my favorite local customers in the region, got some amazing results by getting everyone onto Salesforce and Mission Control. And then Cardinal Health, one of our Fortune 100 clients, and that we have many more. They were going to build their own solution until they found Mission Control, and they said it covered everything they actually needed to do. A lot of information available on our website. You can download that. The Business Economic Impact Report Statement report is fantastic reading. It actually shows you, what the customer's telling us. And you can go to App Exchange today. You can download Mission Control. You can get onto our support team even before you're a client. Any questions? I think we've run out of time. Look, really appreciate those who did hang through to the end. Thank you for your time, and you'll be getting a recording of the video in the next couple of days. And as I said, my name's Trevor Dornbos, and if we go right back to the beginning, should have my email details. I probably should have shared that. trevor.dornbos@aprica.com.au or .com even. Thank you for your time. I hope to see more and speak more with you.